Okay. In waiting for the two, I think we may have a clear idea kung anong gagawin natin. Siguro we can start with the impulse function kasi we've sort of been neglecting that. So that said, let me just okay, so start with function, then plot yung gusto natin. And yung unang gagawin natin would be yung impulse functions. So that said, I'll generate a function na medyo madali i-plot given yung laman natin. Maybe I can start off with siguro tatlong component functions lang tayo at a time para medyo madali. So let's start off with this example. Whiteboard graph. Maybe you can try plotting kung paano yun. Um, yung minus na yan, that's not supposed to be there. Pero, the other weird thing that you could do it, actually, no, I'll do that na lang on the next example. Maglalagay tayo ng offset. So yun, unang example natin, 2dt plus 2dt 2d quantity t minus 2 minus 4dt. Gusto mong maging approach when it comes to your signal functions based off of your input functions. You always want to pay attention na kagad sa mga offsets ng functions natin. So lahat ng t minus na yan, na nasa loob ng function, that would always be a good starting point para malaman mo kung saan yung magiging endpoints ng graph mo. Since panay impulse functions lang ito, we're expecting na flatline lang siya throughout. Pero here's the thing, kailangan mo din mag-graph yung impulse. Kung sino yung nag-drawing ng light blue na line sa origin, that's actually correct sa first step. So tama na yung drawing nyo kanina dito. Yep. Advice ko lang, remember to use the line tool. Mas malinis siya in terms of drawing straight lines as opposed sa pen tool. Yes. So that's your first step. Na-plot nyo na yung 2dt. Yung next na gusto nyo gawin, yung to the right niya. So obviously that would be 2d t minus 2. Yung t minus 2 na yan, oops, mali na yan. Yung nag-graph nyo is actually what we call the step function. Remember, yung impulse lang, spike lang siya, pero hindi siya mag-hold at that point. That's the distinction between our impulse. Yes, tama itong line ulit na to. Tama na yung na-graph dito. Pero, kung paano magpa-progress yan, sa base siya. Yes, correct yung at t minus 4. So correct, and yung nag-erase ng kanyang sagot sa t minus 4, correct din yun, actually. Oops, tama na kanina yung pababa. Kasi minus sign tayo. Yung coefficient ng, yes. Now, keep in mind, yung mga impulse functions, they're practically discontinuous. Basically, hindi siya magko-connect at the top kasi hindi siya step function. Magko-connect lang siya sa base niya. So this is now fully correct from t equals 0 to t equals 2. Tama yung line niyo sa 0. Yun. And that's basically the signal. Kasi parang nangyari sa function na to, sinipa lang natin siya at 0 and then sinipa natin siya ulit at 2. Likewise, sinipa ulit natin at 4. Pero bakit flat lang siya? Kasi yun nga, impulse, the impulse only works for that instant in time. Pero wala siyang lasting effects. Ang problema, down the line kasi, we're going to be analyzing with new components added. This input function will be influencing yung system natin. So we can expect in later classes yung magiging signal na tatry niya i-decode kapag meron na tayong mga circuitry. Parang yung impulse na yan, hindi siya kaagad magfo-follow. And then parang kailangan niya mag-rise. And then may pagbagsak siya ulit. And then pagka dito, matatamaan siya ng impulse and then fall back ulit. This is a very, very rough approximation of how we're expecting our system to respond. Of course, depending on the filters you use, sometimes pwede pa yan mag-overshoot. So, that in mind, one can expect kapag Chebyshev filter yung gamit natin, parang itong mga peaks na to, medyo lumalampas pa siya. Mas lalo na ito actually. So that's basically how your impulse functions work. And this is loosely how your system may respond to your impulses. So maybe we can try a new example. Kindly clear your annotations while I try and figure out how to do that for you. Thank you. So, panibago naman tayo na impulse function. This time around, maglalagay naman ako ng offset. And I'm starting to see that you're getting the idea, hindi siya magsistart at 0. Instead, magsistart siya as -2. On paper, you can basically start drawing that flat line sa -2 na line. And then at that point, ilagay nyo na lang yung mga vertical spikes as dictated by the impulse function. Remember, since impulse functions to, kung ano yung vertical spike niya, yung end ng spike is not it, dun hindi siya magtatapos dun. Magtatapos siya kung saan ulit siya nagsimula. Iba yun from the step function. Answer's practically correct, pero kindly continue the plot up to t equals 10, please. Okay, so that's basically the input impulse functions. So makikita niyo ulit, yung offset natin na negative 2, that's why halos flat tayo sa negative 2 na line. Pero yung influences, wait, hang on. I'm noticing this part is actually wrong. Kasi yung yes. So, bale, purahin na lang natin yan. With the power of white ink. Not quite precise, but I think you get the idea. So with what's happening dito, nag-start off tayo with an offset of negative 2. Kaya't halos flatline tayo dito sa negative 2. And then, yung unang impulse natin happens at t equals 2 para ma-satisfy ito. Yung amplitude, well, yung strength niya is 2, kaya ganito yung sipa niya. And then yung next impulse natin can be seen at t equals 6 with an amplitude of 4. So, bali from negative 2 plus 4 for that instance, papalo siya ng positive 2. Tapos yung final impulse natin, may strength siya of 6 at t equals 7 dapat because of the t minus 7. Kaya't from negative 2, pumalo siya up to positive 4. And then flat siya ulit all the way up to t equals 10. Now I'm going to start transitioning naman to ramps with one final example bridging the two concepts. So kindly erase your annotation. Thank you. What about maglalagay pa rin ako ng offset para papasok pa rin siya within the limits. So let's see. So this time it's going to be more complicated so that we can start transitioning into ramps naman. The thing is, yung parang magiging baseline natin, we're expecting a ramp function na naka-offset siya by 6 pero pababa siya ng pababa kasi yung slope niya is -1. Pero paano naman papasok yung impulse and how can you possibly graph this? Yung advice ko, you start off by drawing the ramp muna. Kasi panay impulses lang naman yung matatamaan. So you can start off by graphing the ramp function from with its offset from t equals 0 all the way to t equals -10. I mean positive 10. So bale, yeah. Yung kaninang slope was a bit too sharp actually. So bale, every time nagagalaw siya by 1, no, every time magpo-forward siya dapat ng 1, bababa siya by 1. And keep in mind yung ating amplitude is in increments of 2. So just be mindful of that. Current line segment is correct. So, yun, na-plot nyo na rin yung impact ng impulse natin. Pero, saan tayo magkukontinue ng plot natin? Remember, yung impulse, kung saan siya nagsimula, dun din dapat siya magtatapos. I sort of blinked out kanina. Paano nangyari yung impulse na malaki? Currently, tama itong impulse na to. And tama din kanina yung slope. Yung next impulse nyo would be applied at t equals 6 with an amplitude of positive 4. Pero, you also need to take into account saan tatama yung ramp at t equals 6. Thankfully, hindi naman nagbabago yung ramp, yung overall slope ng input function natin. So, yung advice ko kanina, since constant yung slope throughout ng input function, plotting yung entire function, yung, let me just change yung cursor. Plotting itong segment na to from start to end would have been a good baseline. Kasi wala naman tayong ibang ramp na magpipilit mag-change ng direction sa kanya or unit or step function na pwede offset sa kanya ng biglaan.
Sir, bakit bawal magsulat?
Teka, i-refresh ko. Baka hindi kasi I think you were not updated with yung proper permissions. Okay, try now. So far, tama naman yung plot sa t equals 6. Tama din yung overall ramp. Ang kulang na lang, i-plot nyo yung mangyayari at t equals 8. And that's correct. So maybe we can actually start moving into exploring yung impact ng mga ramp functions. So note, with the ramp function versus yung impulse, since wala tayong panibagong ramp, hindi nagbago yung direction ng ramp natin. Tuloy-tuloy lang siyang pababa. Tapos yung impact naman ng impulse, makikita mo lang siya at that instant in time, pero wala siyang long-lasting effects. Bear in mind, when we're actually using these functions pagdating sa mga circuits natin, we're expecting something different. Depending on the kind of circuit components, or more rather, depending on the type of filter na gagamitin mo, pwede yan lumampas sa pwede siya lumampas, pwede rin hindi siya nagfo-follow on time kaagad. And I have to stress again, since it's out of my field, kayo dapat mag-figure out anong mas important, yung step response or yung filtering ability niya sa mga higher frequencies. Meron din yung middle ground, thankfully. So let's actually start moving on to functions. Explore naman natin ano mangyayari kapag lumiliko na tayo. So I'm gonna actually before we move on to that, diba, we need to also explore the reverse. So, magbigay ako siguro ng example para ma-decode nyo kung ano yung function. So, paki-clear ulit yung annotations nyo, then I'll start drawing a test function. I'll put that up in a poll and then try natin sagutin. Just like before, I'll start off with something simple. two simple and then one transitory example. Siguro you could try writing your answer to the start writing your answer to the left para hindi mag-overflow yung text to the right. So far, are we in agreement with the answers currently presented? Actually, wait, I could always do that as a poll. Maybe I can publish this. Sir Novena seems to have a concern. Maybe, what part confused you kung why don't you agree na this is the answer? Or napindot mo lang ba yung false by accident? Yung offset sa 5. Kasi yung function natin, since wala tayong kahit anong offset, flat siya at 0. Tapos, what happened with our function kasi, yung mga important points of time natin would be t equals 3 kasi yun yung magsasatisfy sa t minus 3 para gumana yung impulse, t minus 5. So, kapag t equals 5 para masatisfy ito kasi when t equals 5, 5 minus 5 equals 0. And remember, yung impulse natin is only going to be non-zero kapag 0 yung nasa loob niya. And then yung final point in time natin is t equals 7 with the amplitude of 2. I'm not quite sure how I can make that clearer. So, baka napindot niyo lang by accident yung false when you meant true, sir? Say if that's the case, I'm going to move on to a new example. So kindly clear your annotations again, and I'm going to this time give an example na may offset naman, na flat. So you may notice, habang ginagawa ko lang yung simpleng offset, I start off with a straight line. Mamaya, I'll also show what happens paano kapag may ramp na tayo, kung paano yung magiging style ko in illustrating it. So kindly solve the following function. We have one point of confusion. Perhaps maybe there's a way for me to pull them into the spotlight. Um, Other than calling out their name. So, ano yung hindi malinaw dito, Sir Dionisio? What part sa mga sagot ng class do you not agree with? Or napindot nyo lang ba ulit by accident yung false? I see. Okay, so let's move on to kapag ka-ramp naman tayo with impulses. So kindly clear your annotations one more time again, and then we'll start moving on to ramps naman para para we can try and figure out ano mangyayari kapag kami mga liko-liko na yung functions natin. So I'm pretty sure now that I have this drawn, meron na kayong idea kung ano yung offset and kung ano yung starting ramp natin. Now I'm going to sprinkle in mga impulses. Ooh, that's not a clean one. So tama na kaagad yung mga starting ramp natin. You're wise to see na 4R plus, minus 4 plus RT siya. I hope meron din kayong na-absorb given yung style ko in plotting yung function din. Yung ginagawa kong basis when I make this, I try and find yung mga critical endpoints. Yung parang nangyayari in my head, lahat ng impulses, ini-ignore ko na siya kaagad. Kasi since spike lang siya in the graph, hindi niya i-affect yung overall shape. Hindi niya ma-affect yung overall continuous na shape natin. Yung dalawang pinapansin ko when it comes to the continuous shape of the graph would be mga ramp functions and mga step functions. Kasi yun yung magsasabi sa akin, oh, lumiko siya ng ganito or nag-jump siya ng ganyan. I think we can move on to the next. So now we're going to start moving on to ramps. We're going to consider a case na purely ramp lang tayo. So yung gusto natin kanina ulit, no? We start off with the equations and then try nyo i-graph, di ba? Tapos after that, we try the reverse. So kindly clear your annotations again and I'll create a function for you to graph. Keep in mind, with ramps, ang pinapansin natin this time around kung paano siya liliko. So every time may madadagdag na ramp, you need to also pay attention kung gaano ka grabe yung slope niya before the next ramp function. Also, reminder lang, yung amplitude natin are by increments of 2. So just be careful lang. And then yung hint ko, always pay attention sa yung mga critical points. So yung critical points natin would be t equals 0, followed by t equals 4, and then lastly t equals 6. So pay attention kung paano yung magiging angat niya, and then leading up to that, kung paano yung magiging susunod na bend niya kapag ka nadagdag yung isa pa. For starters, since yung unang part natin is R of t lang, we're expecting na yung unang movement niya from t equals 0 is yes, paakyat siya. Pero yung critical na point na susunod would be t equals 4. Hmm, medyo nakuha niyo yung shape-ish pero mukhang mali din yung time codes niyo. So yung unang point diba is 0. Yung next point na magmamatter is t equals 4. So ano yung magiging shape ng function from t equals 0 to t equals 4? Yan yung una. Wala tayo dapat bend at t equals 2 because hindi siya lumabas sa mga functions natin. And remember, panay ramp function pa lang to, so wala tayo dapat mga step function na makita dapat. This ramp is too shy. Ayun. This is the correct ramp, pero hindi dapat siya dito magtatapos. That should keep going on up to t equals 4 dapat. Yes. Ito na yung unang segment ng function natin. Ngayon, paano natin ma-factor yung minus 2r t minus 4? Yung t minus 4, na-account na natin yun by having yung plot natin ending here. Pero paano naman yung minus 2r na yan? Now, keep in mind, yung current function natin is, yung current slope ng input natin is 1 unit ramp. So, sigurado tayo, pag ganito siya, unless may panibagong ramp. So, kailangan mangyari, yung panibagong ramp, getting there pero masyadong sharp yung decline mo. Yung plus 1 na ramp natin, na minus 2 natin na minus 2 natin. So, yung overall effect nun is, na yun, minus 1 na yung slope niya. Yes. Dito na siya. All up to yung point natin of t equals 6. Kasi yun yung susunod na ramp natin. So, yung minus 1 na ramp natin, ano na yung mangyayari sa kanya kung i-salpak natin yung rt minus 6. So, yung minus 1 plus 1 na slope natin, magiging 0, which would mean yung flatline na nandito na bura, kindly redraw that because dun sa last part paano nag-flatten. Okay, so trace natin ulit. Yung unang part ng function natin is r of t, which basically means yung slope dapat na magiging function natin starting t equals 0 would be 1 lang. So 1 siya all the way until yung next function natin is 2rt minus 4. So yung nangyari, yung slope natin na 1, minus 2 natin. So as a result, naging panibagong slope niya starting t equals 4 is minus 1. So, paano siya nag-flatten dito? At t equals 6, meron na naman ulit tayong ramp function. So, from starting t equals 4, yung ramp natin is negative 1. Tapos, nag-add tayo ng panibagong ramp na slope lang niya is 1. So, yung minus 1 na slope na yan, plus yung panibagong ramp, magiging 0 siya. That's why nag-flatten yung function natin starting t equals 6. Kailangan nyo dapat ma-visualize yung ramp function as if lumiliko yung buong function natin. Lahat ng mga r na makikita nyo, expect na i-treat nyo as if liliko yung function. So, maybe we can try another example of yung pagliko natin sa mga ramps. I'll generate a new function. Kindly clear your annotations. So for starters, yung mga important points natin based off of yung naka-indicate na sa function natin would be t equals 2, t equals 4, t equals 6. And panay mga ramps lang to. So, paano liliko yung function natin na technically continuous? Bear in mind, the initial slope is incorrect. Kasi yung unang point na nagmamatter dito is t equals 2. Wala tayong sinabing behavior na mangyayari dapat starting t equals 0. So, yes, ang in-expect natin dapat, flat siya from 0 up to 2. Sa 2 pa lang siya magsisimula lumiko. Mukhang, ayun, itong pinakabagong line na nakita ko is on the right path. Kasi remember, yung slope lang natin is 1. Yung nakakalito lang talaga with this graph I created, yung increment is 2. So, just be cautious lang when you're plotting on this grid of ours. The increments of yung y-axis natin are by 2, not by 1. Remember yung second part plus r siya. So, ang ina-expect dapat natin, hindi dapat siya bababa. Instead, we're expecting at t equals 4, dapat paakyat pa yung ramp. So, ano yung magiging impact ng plus r at t equals 4 na yan? Meron na tayong pre-existing na slope of 1 dahil kay r of t minus 2. Masyadong shallow pa rin yung ginawa nyo from 4 to 6. Remember, may pre-existing tayong ramp of 1, slope of 1, and then yung panibagong ramp at t equals 4, nagdagdag pa tayo sa slope niya. So yung 1 na una, tapos plus 1 pa sa slope niya, panibagong slope niya as a result, starting t equals 4 would be 2. Yes. Now, paano na yung behavior niya starting t equals 6? Meron tayong ramp of 2, And then yung panibagong ramp, may slope of 2 na tayo, pero yung panibagong ramp na idadagdag pa, minus 4 yung slope na idadagdag. So, paano na yung liko niya? Yes. Oh, wait, tama ba? Minus, ay hindi, ito, yung slope nito is negative 1. Ako yung namalista ako. Negative 1 pa lang yung slope nito. Kulang pa siya ng drop. Dapat yung slope niya is negative 2 because of yung cumulative effects ng mga ramp functions natin. Plus yung dagdag na bago, yung plus 2 na slope niya, bago siya na umabot at 6 na minus 4. So naging negative 2 na yung slope niya. Yung cumulative effects ng mga ramps natin before t equals 6 is gives us a slope of 2. Kapag dinagdag natin yung huling ramp function, yung plus 2 na slope na yan, na minus 4. So yung mangyayari sa panibagong slope niya, magiging negative 2. Both of you missed the mark. Remember, yung increments natin ng grid is 2. So, likely baka dun kayo nalito. Ako din nalilito on occasion. Yun. That's the correct slope. Oops, bakit siya nag-flat? Kindly redraw na lang yung up to t equals 6. From t equals 6 going to 7, tama siya. Pero yung naging continuation starting t equals 7, doon na nagka-problema. Hindi tayo nagdagdag ng isa pang ramp at t equals 7. So, ang ina-expect natin, yung current na slope ng function natin, tuloy-tuloy siya all the way to yes. So, siguro, are there any confusions kung bakit nangyari ito? I'm going to start a poll. Sa start kung gaano kahaba. Yung nangyari kasi kaya flat siya at the start dahil sa t-2 na to. The fact na walang ibang function bago sa kanya is why it's flat. Since wala tayong r of t, that's why flat siya all the way up to t equals 2. So I guess parang implicitly yung nangyayari, palaging magiging critical point yung t equals 0 natin. So other than t equals 0, yung next na magiging critical points are all of those points na nakaspecify sa lahat ng mga input functions mo. Is that your point of confusion, Sir Lucas? Have I been able to address it? Okay, so ngayon, maglalagay naman ako ng step function sa mga ramp functions natin before we move on to yung reverse nito. So kindly clear your annotations again, and I'll create a function. This time it's going to be 2 ramp functions and 1 step function. To add to the difficulty then, it's also going to be a fraction. So remember yung concepts nyo from basic algebra. In yung mga slope na yan can be viewed as rise over run. Gaano kalayo tatakbo yung function bago siya umakyat by that numerator? So remember, yung impact ng mga ramp functions natin sa input, liliko siya, pero hindi siya tatalon. Yung impact naman ng mga step functions natin, dun siya tatalon. So we're expecting yung mga magiging critical points natin would be t equals, I might want to change that kasi I think that's gonna get weird. Yes, hold on. I don't think I'm comfortable with that. Baguhin ko lang yung offsets kasi hindi siya magiging malinis in the graph. Sorry. Okay, so ito na lang. So remember, yung interpretation natin pagka-fraction yung mga slope natin is rise over run. So sigurado tayo yung critical point natin starts off at 0, and then t equals 2, t equals 6, and then t equals 8. So mali na kaagad yung slope kasi, ayun, ito na yung tamang line natin sa baba. Hindi tayo mag-slope kaagad kasi hindi pa nagsimula yung ramp function natin at 0. Nagsimula pa lang siya at t equals 2. Masyadong sharp yung incline natin. Yung nagawa mong slope is 2, pero yung slope na nandyan is 1/2. So, bale, kada increment niya sa t, kalahati lang yung iaakyat niya. And bear in mind, yung increments ng graph natin is 2 rather than 1. So, technically, ito naman yung slope niya is 1. So, just be careful lang about yung increments natin. So, mas shallow siya dapat. Ito, this is actually correct na. So, magko-continue yan all the way to 6. Kasi yun yung critical point na isa pa. Nag-overshoot ka. undershoot naman yung nangyari dito. Yes, ito is closer to what's correct. Ngayon, ano mangyayari naman with the step function? Mangyayari mag-jump siya, pero not necessarily naliliko siya. If anything, since wala ang katapat na ramp function at t equals 6, we're expecting na kung ano pa rin yung slope natin all the way up to t equals 8. Ganun pa rin siya. Iba lang yung naging starting point natin. Oh man, akala ko sakto na pala. Yeah. Basta one thing's for sure, yung slope natin at t equals 6, ganun pa rin siya, 1/2. Hindi siya flat. Kasi wala tayong change sa function. So 1/2 pa rin yung angat natin. This is actually slope 1. Tama ba? Yung run natin is 4. Yung rise natin is 2. No, wait. Oh, teka. If that was correct, let's back solve lang. So starting t equals 2, yung next point would be 6. So yung delta t natin would be 4. So run natin would be 4. Tapos yung rise would be 1/2. So 4 times 1/2 would equal 2. Tama, di ba? Oh, wait. Okay, so tama ko nga pala to. Sorry. Ibig sabihin, yung 1/2 na ramp na yan, yung next na point natin would be t. Yung run natin would be, yung delta t natin is 2. Yung run natin would be, tapos yung rise versus run natin. So 1/2 times delta x equals delta, well, actually no. Since t dapat sabihin ko, 1/2 times delta t natin would equal delta v. So delta t natin is 2 times yung slope. Therefore, delta v natin would be equal to 1 for a delta t of 2. Which basically means parang banda dito yung magiging point natin. And apparently, I was hoping na katama siya on either of the grid points. My mistake. So parang ito na yung magko-correspond sa v equals 1 natin. Ulit? Okay. So going back sa point 2, if we start looking at yung slope versus yung target point natin, we now have to consider some. Bakit hindi ako pwede mag-triangle? You know what? I'm just gonna annotate the additional symbols. So, parang yung magiging general principle natin in figuring out kung saan yung next endpoint natin. Paano po yung delta na yun? Delta is yung shorthand natin in indicating change. So, delta v is basically yung change in v natin equals yung change in t times yung slope. And that's basically yung parang underlying principle sa algebra. So let's actually apply this principle from t equals 2 going to yung nakuha niyong point. Bakit sa v of t equals 2 siya nagtapos? So, yung delta t natin from t equals 2 going to t equals 6, for this case would be 4. Yung slope natin galing dito would be 1/2. So 4 times 1/2 equals 2. So for a change of 4 sa t natin, yung expected na change of v natin would be 2. So from here, that's why ganito yung akyat niya. So can we keep applying that concept naman moving from 6 to 8? Na-account na natin yung impact ng step function na to dito. Pero paano pa yung slope? Well, yung next critical point natin would be t of 8. Yung start point naman natin would be t of 6. So for this case, panibagong delta t natin would be 2. Yung slope natin hindi pa nagbago, so 1/2 pa rin siya. So 2 times 1/2, yung magiging delta v natin as a result becomes 1. So dapat from here, kapag gumalaw tayo ng 2 steps along t, aakyat siya by 1 sa v. After ng t8, flat na. Not really. Kasi yung coefficient ng r, ramp pa rin siya. Kasi mangyayari sa slope niya at this point, 1/2 minus 1. So yung panibagong slope would become negative 1/2. Tama na kanina yung slope from 6 going to yung kalagitnaan. Yung next na kailangan mangyari, yung panibagong slope, kailangan nyo i-account moving from 8 to our final point na nasa graph. Palagi dapat with ramps, you have to keep track of kung ano yung current slope niya at that point in time. So, kada ramp function, expect na magbabago kung paano siya liliko. So, yung unang ramp natin, nagsimula siya lumiko starting 2. Pero may step function tayo, kaya't ganito yung shape. So, from here, since meron tayo ulit panibagong function, na ramp function, magbabago ulit paliko niya. Pero that does not necessarily mean magfa-flat siya. Kasi, yung cumulative ramp natin since R, yan na yung tama. The reason to this kasi, yung cumulative natin bago tayo pumalo ng t equals 8, ramp natin is 1/2. Pero starting t equals 8, nag-minus 1 tayo sa 1/2 na yan. Kaya yung magiging cumulative na ramp natin after that becomes negative 1/2. That's why ganyan yung liko. So is that clear or ano pa yung confusion sa mga ramp functions natin? Maybe, would you, actually, isa pa po, na create a function, sige. I'll try and come up with an example na mag-flatten siya in the middle then. So kindly clear your annotations. Then after that, let's move on naman to constructing yung to deconstructing pagka meron naman tayong graphs. Ang hope ko sana somewhere around 3 makapag-quiz ako ng mga conceptual questions para mas makapag-review pa tayo. Hanggang 4 tayo. Every Thursday, apparently, yung schedule ko says we're up hanggang 4 p.m. tayo magtatapos. So basically, that means kapag exam time, you have somewhere around 3 hours, pero minus 20 minutes kasi I want to keep that 10-minute leeway at the start and end. Pwede naman. Your classmates can continue with what you have. So I have to start asking, bakit lumiko na tayo pababa at t equals 2? Walang minus sign yung r of t minus 2 natin. So, something's up. Tama yung idea nyo na mag-flatten, pero yung progression kung bakit siya nag-flatten is yes. So, yung na-account nyo from t equals 2 going to t minus t of 4, positive yung slope natin. At t equals 4, yung plus 1 na slope natin, ima-minus 1 natin siya moving forward. So kapag ka-0 yung slope natin, remember that always corresponds to a flat line. Bear in mind yung step function natin occurs at t equals 6. Before we continue, as much as I can see the correct line, bakit nag-drop kayo starting t equals 4 ng ganitong kagrabe? This basically tells me yung slope natin is negative 2 starting t equals 4, which is not correct. Kasi at t equals 4, yung slope lang na idadagdag would be minus 1. So more rather, yung slope na ibabawas is 1. Pero before that, yung slope natin before t equals 4 is positive 1. So bakit naging negative 2 yung slope natin at t equals 4? Kung yung components natin lang is slope equals 1 and then yung sumunod is minus 1. So positive 1 minus 1 equals 0. Tama yung flat kanina dito. Remember, kada ramp function yung pinapansin nyo is kung paano siya lumiliko. Okay, itong line naman na, yun. Tama na. Ito na yung impact ng step function natin. Tapos tama na kanina yung, yan. This is yung step function natin at t equals 6. Pero, at t equals 6, kung ano yung slope natin before t equals 6, ganun pa rin siya. Kasi wala tayong ramp function at t equals 6 na panibago. So, slope 0, all the way up to yung next na critical point natin, which would be t of 8. Oops. Ayan. Itong baba is yung correct path natin. Now, we need to take into account ano mangyayari with yung ramp function naman na to. Liliko siya starting t equals 8. Pero, yung coefficient niya is minus. So, nag-minus 1 tayo sa slope of 0. Sobra ka. Yung bear in mind, yes. So, ito na yung shape natin. So, is everyone in agreement na ito na yung sagot? And if not, what part yung nakakalito? Itong step function? Ito. Itong part na to, bale, nangyari kasi with this segment, oops, mali yung input ko. Yung nangyari with this segment, galing siya dito. Prior to that kasi, wala tayong ibang input here. Paano naging positive yung slope? Dahil sa fact na yung coefficient ng r, technically positive 1 siya. So I'm going to guess yung next question, bakit nag-flat siya dito sa part na to? Paano natin masasabi ito yung impact niya? Kasi prior to that, yung slope natin, which I'm just going to crudely draw sa line, plus 1. Eh dito, yung slope natin, yung plus 1 natin, nagdagdag pa tayo ng minus 1 na slope. So as a result, yung slope natin naging 0 dahil sa ramp function natin dito. If anything, hindi lang hanggang dito yung effect niya, all the way up to here, kasi yung step function lang, yung ginawa lang niya is lumiko lang siya. One more. Siguro naman yung next, I'll move on naman to creating the function. Kung sino kailangan mag-break, pwede. Pero unfortunately, we're leading up to yung last hour na. So I'm going to try and maximize yung time. Pero before that, yan, yung step function, itong jump na to. And then itong ramp function na to, nagsimula siya here. So yung 0 natin na ramp, nag-minus 1 pa tayo. So yung overall new ramp natin is negative 1. So pa-clear na lang yung annotations I'll construct. Tapos kung sino hindi nag-break can try. Tapos I'll give it like probably 10 minutes. Kasi I'm hoping sana I can start tossing conceptual questions bago tayo mag-end. So far, green to the top right is on the right track. Kasi yung na-account niya, yung pag-flatline sa from t equals 2 going to t equals 4. Yung slope at the start na counteract starting t equals 2. So yung minus 1 na slope na yan, pagkatapos ng t equals 2, naging 0 siya. That's why nandito ito. So next, yung kailangan niyo i-figure out paano nangyari itong bend na dalawa na to. And by the looks of it, yung nandito sa middle bottom, they're also on the right. Wait, hindi. Yung nasa... wait. Hold up. May cool... Ayan. I'm starting to see the partner. Yes. Okay, so far on track si bottom. Wait. T of 4. Tama yung sign ng nasa ramp ng T equals 4. Pero yung T equals 6, yung plus 1 na ramp natin, na zero out natin ulit starting T of 6. So, yes, yan na yung tama. So,
Sir, paano po naging ganyan ulit?
kung bakit ito yung naging sagot?
Opo.
Okay, so remember, yung nangyayari with the ramp function, binabago lang natin kung paano yung liko ng function natin. At the start, yung graph natin is pababa. So, yung implication nito kaagad, meron na tayong ramp function at the start. Kailangan natin ma-figure out kung ano yung slope na yan. So, meron naman tayong visible points from origin hanggang v equals negative 2, tapos t equals positive 2. Yung implication nun is negative 2 yung slope natin. And since slope lang yung ibibigay ng mga ramp functions natin.
Bakit po hindi negative 1 yung slope niyan? Di ba po? Negative
I'm getting to that. So sigurado tayo yung rise niya is negative 2 and then yung run niya is positive 2. So effectively, negative 2 over 2 yun. Ano yung negative 2 over 2? Diba negative 1 lang yun? That's why negative 1 yung unang part. So bear in mind yung slope. You can view that as fractions. And yung mga fractions na yan, just to go back na lang to your earlier algebra, you can simplify them para malinis tingnan. So from negative 2 over 2, we simplify that fraction into simply negative 1. So that's the first part pa lang. Yung magiging next part, obviously, yung bakit siya nag-flatline. So ang kailangan mangyari, starting t equals 2, kailangan natin ma-counteract yung nandun na slope. So yung minus 1 na slope natin, ano yung pwede natin idagdag na ramp function para mag-flat siya? Simply, isa pang ramp function na yung amplitude niya would be 1. Kasi yung implication nun, magdadagdag lang siya ng slope equals 1. So mangyayari, yung slope of negative 1 from kanina, starting t equals 2, kinontra na tuloy ng dagdag na ramp function natin, leading to a slope of 0. That's why, flat na siya starting t equals 2. Tapos mapapansin natin ulit, lumiko siya starting t equals 4. So, yung sigurado natin, from t equals 4, negative 2 siya. Yung delta t natin, which would be 2, kasi yung next point na mahalata natin kaagad would be 6, would be 2. Tapos yung delta na v naman natin, given yung delta t natin, would be 2. So, mangyayari, rise over run natin would be 2 over 2. I-simplify mo yung 2 over 2 na yan, magiging 1. That's why 1 yung nandito sa r of t minus 4. And then lastly, starting t equals 6, nag-flat ulit siya. So yung pre-existing slope of 1, kukontrahin natin ulit para mag-0 siya. So that's why minus 1 ulit siya, para mag-flat. Yung napaka-tricky when it comes to yung ramp functions is visualizing yung pagliko niya. At that point, hindi lang basta-basta na mag-jump lang siya eh. You need to pay attention kung paano lumiliko yung function natin. Kung nag-flat, kung naging shallow yung slope, kung nag-outright flat, or kung nag-change siya ng biglaan. So siguro I can move on to the next example. Let's try something a bit more extreme. Imbes na magpa-flat tayo, this time, full-blown change of direction tayo. And I got to tell you, mas madali na mag-drawing kaysa mag-type. Okay, so tatlong ramp functions naman yung gawin natin. I have to stop you there muna. Yung t-2 tama, pero bakit positive siya? Keep in mind, starting t-2, t equals 2, pababa na yung graph natin. So we're expecting na dapat yung panibagong overall slope niya has to be negative. So ano yung amplitude ng next ramp function na pwede mo idagdag starting t equals 2? Yung liko niya from starting t equals 0, slope pa lang niya is 1. Pero pagkatapos ng t equals 2, yung naging panibagong slope is negative 2. So ano yung ramp function na kailangan natin i-apply dito para yung positive 1 na paagakyat magiging negative 2 na pagbagsak? Yes, tama, minus 3. Next, ano naman yung pwede natin idagdag para itong slope na to ang makapture natin? So yung nakikita natin, yung pwede natin mahalatang point kaagad is t equals 4 and v equals, at t equals 4, v is negative 2. Tapos yung halata na kaagad at t equals 6, v is negative, v is 0. So for a delta t of 2, yung naging akyat niya is 1. Wait, hindi. For a delta t of 2, yung naging akyat niya is 2. So, kung yung change in t niya from here, yung change in v niya is 2 for a step of 2, ano yung slope na starting from 4 going to, well, 10? More rather, ano yung slope starting from 0.4 going to 0.6? Nagbago yung v natin by 2 pagkatapos niya mag-move forward by 2. So, definition ng slope ulit, rise over run. Yung rise niya is 2, yung run niya is 2. Therefore, yung slope niya is 1. So, yung question is, yung anong idadagdag mo para itong slope na to of negative 2 magiging positive 1 siya ulit?
Three po ba? Positive 3?
Yes. Yes. Negative 2 plus 3 equals positive 1. So, I'm guessing gusto niyo pa ng isa pang example with ramps, no?
Po.
Yes.
Paano po nalaman na yung rise and run yan hanggang dun lang po sa may, parang sa may 6 lang po?
Yung rise and run, paano natin nalaman na yung rise and run is 6? Yung arbitrary rin yung paggamit natin ng 0.6 eh. Pwede rin actually natin gamitin yung 0.84 yung rise and run natin. Yung unang mas-specify mo kasi would be yung run. So sabihin natin yung 8. Yung naging run natin is now 4. Kasi yung starting point natin was t equals 4. Paano naman yung rise natin? Sigurado tayo at t equals 4, v is negative 2. And yung namumukhaan natin at t equals 8, v is 2. So yung difference ng v sa dalawang points na yan, yan yung magiging rise, which is simply 4. So yung rise natin of 4 versus yung run natin of 4, magiging 1 din pa rin yun. Likewise, kapag ka-try natin yung t equals 10 para ma-solve ulit yung run natin, yung rise versus run natin, yung run natin from point 4 going to point 10 would be 6. Tapos yung rise at t equals 10, v naman natin would become 4. So 4 minus negative 2, kasi yung reference pa rin natin is yung t equals 4. It just so happens 6 pa rin yun. So rise of 6 divided by run of 6 equals slope of 1 pa rin.
Okay po, thank you.
So, one more ramp example or gusto niyo magdagdag na ako ng magdagdag ako ng unit step? Ramp only. Okay, sige. Ganun ulit gagawin ko. Yung liliko yung function. Be mindful ulit of yung increments natin sa VIA. Hindi to increment of 1, increment of 2 to. I have to stop you there. Shallow pa rin masyado yung nade-decode mong, yung nade-generate mong function. So yung rise natin, yung medyo obvious na data point would be t equals 3. Bali nangyari dito, v is now equal to 2. Pero at point 2, at t equals